Hey everyone, welcome to what I'm pretty sure will be the final episode of What Mark Spins. The title wasn't an indication enough. I've decided to just kind of wrap things up with this monster of a video going through the rest of my collection, from the K's to Z's, or Y I think actually is, of my LPs. Because really no one watches this show, and I'm going to talk about other update stuff in a future video later this month, hopefully, but I'm going to be moving that out of the way for some other stuff. You'll see why. By the way, I'm not really going to be talking about any of these albums in depth. Just kind of going through them one by one, just because, you know, I want to be a completist about this whole thing. Anyway, first up is Trick by Kele. I reviewed this album in 2014. If you're interested, you can just look through the archives of the channel. It's a pretty solid thing from the singer from Block Party. Next up's John Kongos, his self-titled album. You might know him best either for the song He's Gonna Step On You Again, which is on this thing, or because all of his sons are actually in the band Kongos that are pretty popular right now, or at least a couple years ago. I think that's a great band. Yeah, there's one of his things. Cool, like, experimental, eclectic, folky stuff from the early 70s. I also have a 12-inch single of this Lenny, Kravitz, P. Diddy, Loon, Busta Rhymes, and Pharrell song, Show Me Your Soul. I mentioned, like, a sale that I was on 12-inch hip-hop singles a while ago, and this was one of those that picked up. Was it the Bad Boys 2 soundtrack? Just a nice little oddity right there. Then there's Julian Lennon of Velat, I think that's how it's pronounced. Son of John Lennon, definitely followed in more of the pop footsteps. Pretty awesome one. Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory. You know, you might see the poster up there sometimes when I'm shooting from certain angles. This is a Record Store Day one with an awesome gatefold. Came with that poster, as well as a 10-inch single of One Step Closer. Might also remember it as the prop in my renowned Linkin Park focus group video for my hunting party review from a couple years ago. And this may be the most 2000 picture I've ever seen. Oh boy, Mastodon, the motherlode. God, I love having Mastodon on vinyl. I really should have more Mastodon on vinyl just because the artwork is meant for that. Another awesome picture on the back for the B-side. Another Record Store Day thing, Metallica Beyond Magnetic EP from 2012, so I think this might have been from my first Record Store Day. I'm excited for their new album. Okay, this is a pretty recent one. If you follow me on Twitter, you might have seen me talk about this recently. Eddie Murphy, Put Your Mouth on Me. This is a single that I saw at a sale at a fair for like 50 cents, and Todd in the Shadows talked about this briefly in his One Hit Wonderland on a party all the time, and boy, this is interesting. It's like, song really is a case study in like how everyone wanted to be Prince by the late 80s. It's just a fascinating relic, really. Next up is Smash by the Offspring, legendary punk album from the mid-90s, of course. Comes on a beautiful, translucent orange vinyl. 1994 is a contender for my favorite year in music, and this album's a big reason why. Oh, another Record Store Day thing, Paramore, this Ain't It Fun 12-inch single, quote-unquote, with the broken display. I just love that, little things like that. Oh man, this is one of those artists that I was really hoping to dig into more as I went into the series, but it's not going to happen. My Tom Petty records, he's always been one of my favorite songwriters and just artists and bands. Grew up on the greatest hits and stuff, and I'm just going to pick up these records one by one. You're Gonna Get It, it's probably the weakest of the three, even though it has a couple classic singles on it. But Damn Torpedoes, along with Full Moon Fever, are like two of my all-time favorite records, and Hard Promises is a great one as well. Of course, if you're going to go through any reputable record collection, you have to have Dark Side of the Moon. Luckily, this is one that was passed down from me in my initial record collection from my dad. This is kind of a sentimental thing, even if the packaging is kind of crap condition. I still love it. Classic prog record. It's a total entry-level thing to say, but shut up. Iggy Pop, Post-Pop Depression, very solid album from this year as far as comebacks from one of the godfathers of punk. Next up's Russ Francis, Maximum Soul Power. If you've heard of the story of the band Death, who was like this kind of 70s punk band before that kind of became a thing, this band's kind of tangentially related to that, and I found out about that story through this. They're opening up for the Soaks, back when they were called Grand Tarantula. Very great, like, ambitious punk record, if you ask me. We got another important artist in my classic rock discovery. Santana, got 3 albums by them. Abraxas, probably being the most classic. With, oh, can I show that on YouTube? I don't know. And then these two albums, Shango and Inner Secrets, which were when they were going a little bit more pop, but I think there's some underrated tracks on that, especially like Hold On, Nowhere to Run, fantastic songs, as well as Well Alright, Stormy, Open Invitation. Just, you wouldn't really associate with that with like the Santana sound, but they still are just great songs in their own right. Next up is the Shins, Oh Inverted World. You know what? I actually have a download card of this that I haven't redeemed, so if you want it, I'm going to put the picture up here. If you want it, just comment letting me know that you downloaded it, and I'll leave a little update for that. Oh, and the album's pretty good, too. They're selling this at Barnes & Noble for like 13 bucks. I noticed the only full LPs that are like 13 bucks at Barnes & Noble are Shins albums. It's so bizarre. Oh, this is a band that I really want to delve into more too. The Smithereens, especially for you. This is one of my all-time favorite albums. I think this band is so criminally underrated as far as like that first wave alternative, 80s alternative pop rock thing. Basically think like if The Cure and like Morrissey had a kid that grew up on nothing but the Beatles circa like 1965, that would be the Smithereens. Some all-time great like pop rock songs on this thing. Okay, another personal favorite of mine, Social Distortion self-titled album. I really need to get more into this band because most of what I know from them is on this album. But they just haven't put anything out in a long time, which really sucks. But yeah, this is the thing I picked up at Record Store Day last year. I went to a couple different record stores to find it. Man, that beautiful blue vinyl. I'd say this subconsciously inspired some of the stuff that I was writing at the time with the whole, like, a structuring of the songs and stuff like that. I'm not going to go too much into that since I'm trying to speed through these. Anyway, next, Sound City, Reel to Reel. This is, when that Sound City documentary came out a few years ago, yeah, they released an album and, like, no one talked about it. I think this is such a fantastic record. It has Dave Grohl on every song, but then you got, like, Paul McCartney, Josh Homme, and Trent Reznor all teaming up on the last song. Stevie Nicks, really a who's who of classic rock acts that recorded at the studio. This is probably one of the heavier vinyl packages I have, and it's a fantastic record, and more people should have talked about this. Just kind of got swept under the rug. Of course, Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA. I have a couple other Bruce records, but I just haven't listened to those vinyl copies of them yet. Fantastic 80s pop record when he was going more pop, and it somehow suited him. Who knows? Who knew? Al Stewart, Year of the Cat. I love this guy's lyricism. The Strokes, Angles, was probably the first new album I ever got on vinyl when I started collecting back in 2011. So this is a pretty important release to me, in addition to being a pretty underrated record in my opinion. I don't think it really gets the credit it deserves. I really don't think the Strokes have ever really released a bad album, except maybe that EP that came out earlier this year. I'm digressing. Oh man, and it'll be hard not to digress for these. Supertramp. Guys, I was talking about underrated bands a little bit earlier. I really think Supertramp doesn't get the credit for deserve for, like, melding prog rock and infectious pop music and, like, maybe some more ambitious lyrical themes together on, especially Crime of the Century, which I've slowly realized is actually one of my favorite albums of all time. In addition to Breakfast in America, also a fantastic. Recommend looking up as many songs as you can, especially from Crime of the Century. A lot of songs in this, like Hide in Your Shell, Rudy. Even the one more well-known singles like Bloody Well Right and Dreamer. I really think this band deserves more credit. I might actually devote a whole video to them if I just feel like it and I have the free time someday. They would deserve it. Another Record Store Day thing, Tenacious D, jazz. They put out like an 11-minute jazz improv thing, and it's glorious. Tool, Undertow. I'm not really as much into Tool as my cool friends would like me to be. I've only heard this album in full. It is too spoopy, appropriate for October. Very unsettling, especially that last track. That's some imagery. People know how to talk about Tool better than me. But moving on to one of my all-time favorite albums, which I know people are going to kill me for after I say, you know, just whatever about Tool. 21 Pilots, Vessel. I love Blurryface. This one has a special connection to me. Of course, U2, The Unforgettable Fire, another band that really shaped me as I was getting into rock music as a youngin'. Van Halen, 1984. The self-titled one was really what got me into rock music in general when I was first listening to stuff in my mom's collection. But this one is also a classic, in my opinion. Maybe the more purist rock fans would disagree 30 years later. I don't care. Okay, this is a more underground one. Warm Soda, Someone for You. Yeah. This is a band that I was kind of following in 2013 or 14, I think. And I just kind of fell off with them, but this is just some nice lo-fi throwback garage rock. Think like The Strokes, but a little more bubblegummy and recorded a little bit worse. And okay, Weezer, the Blue Album. I forgot if this was the album I traded with John from ARTV. I think I sent him Sleigh Bells, Bitter Rivals, which was a tough loss. But it was worth it to get this album, one of my all-time favorites. I always hesitate to say my all-time favorite album or artist or whatever, but this would definitely be in the running. I love this friggin' album. It shapes everything about me, even if it wasn't one of the first albums I ever listened to. It's just so perfect. Jack White, Lazaretto, you may know about all the crazy stuff that was going on in the record itself. I'm not going to repeat that stuff. I don't really love it as much as I did on the first couple listens. I really don't come back to a lot of it, but it's still a nice solo record. Love the cover. Okay, here's another kind of obscurity. Whitford St. Holmes. This is a side project from 1980 of Brad Whitford from Aerosmith, who's a band that I really kind of grew up with, so of course when I saw this I picked it up. And Derek St. Holmes, I believe, sung for Ted Nugent's band or something like that. I don't know. There is a lot of stuff going on with this, and really a lot of that is because it's a promotional copy that I just happened to pick up somehow. I think it was actually in that initial collection that was passed down to me. I don't know. The funny thing is that there was initially like a huge sticker here that was like complaining about the album and making fun of the members on here. I don't know why I got rid of it. I guess, I don't know, to be a perfectionist with my collection, but clearly that wasn't going to work out for me. A little relic of time there. Just kind of basic classic rock on that, really. Now, of course, when we're talking about real classic albums to have on vinyl, you can't not have Who's Next. I have a few other Who albums in this pile here that I still haven't gotten around to, and I might talk about those at another time, but I mean, Who's Next? Really, it's one of those albums where like almost every single song is certified classic. Bob O'Reilly, Behind Blue Eyes, Won't Get Fooled Again, even Bargain to an extent. Really innovative rock record, not too much else to say about that. And lastly, in alphabetical order for my vinyl LPs, is Youngblood Hawke, Wake Up. More like, when's this band gonna wake up and follow up this really awesome indie pop record that came out in 2013? Because I couldn't bring my copy of this to a festival I saw them at, so I decided to have them sign this piece of paper, and I just taped it to the record, and boom, it's a signed copy. These guys kind of had a hit in 2013 with We Come Running, which is a great song. I really think this whole album is full of indie pop gems, including the song Dannyboy, which I've actually been using as my like morning alarm song for the past, really since it came out. Since it actually starts with like this synth rising up and then just yelling, "Wake up!" And it's just like the perfect song to wake up to, really. A little on the nose, shut up. And that is about it for What Mark Spins. Again, I'm just kind of cut off this series here. I have other records up here, and I may talk about them in some form in some other series, hint hint, once I do the whole revamp with the channel that I'm working on, but keeps getting delayed over and over again. I'll update you guys as it happens, but for now, I hope you guys enjoyed this series. If you want to look at previous episodes, there is a playlist on the channel. I might leave maybe links to like 10 of the most underrated albums I think everyone should hear songs from. But yeah, that's about it for What Mark Spins. I'm rambling, and I will talk to you guys at another time. See ya! Oh, and here's the cassettes.